According to the Bank of America Global Fund Manager Survey, long Mag 7 is one of the most crowded trades on Wall Street. But my next guest has some alternative ways to play artificial intelligence. I want to bring in Dan Newman, who is the Futurum CEO. Great to have you here back in studio with us.
Hey, Brad, good to see you.
So let's talk about this, because a lot of people have already piled into Mag 7, but you believe that there are other places that are non-Mag 7 that they could find some exposure to generative AI and this broader kind of thesis that's driven the market for the past 2 years.
Yeah, I mean, there's been nothing that is, deemed more attention than AI. You've seen just the news in the last couple of days, whether it's Microsoft Meta offering hundreds of millions of dollars to potential researchers to join their AI talent team. Or, you saw Marvell came out yesterday with a custom AI silicon roadmap, and their stock is popping. We could probably talk a little bit about that. But you're seeing it really across the board. And then, of course, so many people have kind of felt like, well, did I miss Nvidia? And so the question I get asked most by clients, by retail investors, and why we basically launched the Futurum AI 15, which is the extended list beyond, is what else is out there besides maybe Nvidia, Microsoft, and Meta? What are the plays, And so you hear about kind of what are the difference makers. So for instance, companies like AVGO, Broadcom.
Right.
There's a $500 billion TAM, we believe, in the next 4 years for custom AI silicon. Yeah. Nvidia is going to get a lot of that. Nvidia gets 92% of that market right now, we believe.
Right.
But they're not going to keep 92% in our opinion. They're probably going to fall to maybe 80%, 70%. So it still means Nvidia, by the way, can triple to 300 billion. There's going to be 100 billion that's going to go into custom. And so we have AVGO, for instance, as our number 2 name to play, because that $100 billion opportunity, that sits with the Google custom chips they're doing. It sits with custom chips that companies like OpenAI are planning to do. So that's one of the plays. Of course, you've seen, Brad, TSMC. TSMC, people think about it as a foundry, and of course it's a very big name, and there's a lot of dollars invested in it right now, but people don't always make that connection that whether it's Nvidia making chips, Meta making chips, Microsoft and Amazon doing their custom chips, all of them are dependent right now on TSMC. And as much as I think the US needs a strong Intel, we aren't there yet. So right now, TSMC has all the pricing power, so it sits at the very top of our list. And then there's some eclectic names. I'll pause here, but basically there's eclectic names like Oracle that we put on there. You saw what a pop they've gotten, but they've absolutely nailed this AI transformation, and they are in a perfect position. And just yesterday, xAI and Oracle made a big announcement together that they're going to be using Oracle's infrastructure to train xAI models.
Right. So even within that, and I'm glad you brought up Oracle, because that's where I wanted to go next, especially as we were looking at the board there a moment ago with, I believe it was Oracle. We had Salesforce on there. I think Snowflake was on there as well. There we go for our viewers. And I'm bringing them up because all of them are talking about Agentic AI and what that can mean for their businesses, but also, as Deloitte is talking about it, what it can mean for specific industries. I believe Deloitte came out this morning and projected it could be $150 billion for the telecom industry alone. So for all of what we're hearing around Agentic AI, who are kind of the top picks around that as the non-Mag 7, but top 15 of your kind of viewpoint within that specific kind of subsector within this AI play right now?
Yeah, so you saw Oracle on there, and that, of course, we hit on that one. They will do agents on top of their software database stacks. They've done very well in that space. Salesforce is a name that comes up, and we really like it. Now, it's controversial, because there are some people that kind of think the SaaS play is at risk. Satya Nadella came out and called SaaS basically deprecated CRUD databases with logic on top of them. And by the way, he was saying that in respect to their own software, they have a whole SaaS offering in business in their Dynamics suite. So he was actually, sometimes being able to disrupt yourself first is a really critical moment. We see this in every industry right now. But Salesforce has this really deeply entrenched user base of its CRM. Huge customer base. And we believe that a lot of companies are going to maybe look at those customer service workflows first, marketing workflows first, and sales workflows where an agent can do customer outreach. It can do follow-up. It can recommend to a sales team what's the next best action to keep a deal in progress. So things like that are why companies like Salesforce made it onto our list, because we think those are the agent use cases that are going to drive immediate efficiency and productivity. And by the way, $150 billion for telcos conservative. I mean, we see a $20 trillion productivity gain by the end of the decade, and we see something like $5 to $6 trillion of cost takeouts. Now, this goes back to the Amazon comments that came yesterday from CEO Andy Jassy talking about jobs and the impact. I mean, it's coming for jobs on both ends. It's coming in robotics in the warehouse.
Yeah.
It's also coming for those knowledge worker jobs. So agents will bring efficiency first, prune to grow.
One of the other areas as well, and this is one of the kind of top spots that we know our viewers are hitting when it comes to the private market data on Yahoo Finance, it's OpenAI. And the speed with which they're not only able to garner some of the investments from publicly traded companies that we're talking about here now, but also government contracts, which is a new effort for them going forward. What's the significance of them being able to hit some of these milestones in stride, and what that means for the rest of the publicly market and publicly traded entities right now in the market?
Well, I mean, I know we are in this conflict moment with Iran, Israel, and the U.S. kind of sitting on the edge of it and potentially coming in. Yeah. And this, of course, brings a lot of attention to defense. I talked about how AI is a defense and a growth trade. If you look at its deflationary impacts and you look at companies like Palantir that sits at number 3 on our AI 15 list, is because they have this unique ability to contract the government, and we all know how much defense spending can impact the success of a tech company. Oracle was another one that did very well in that particular era. So we go back to OpenAI, and OpenAI is saying, hey, here's a massive TAM for us to explore. We are seen as the world's leading researcher in AI. Yeah. We could potentially partner with other private market companies like Anduril. We've seen there's been some opportunities for those kinds of partnerships to build something that the government can benefit from. But just Palantir alone and the way the market has responded to the conflict.
Yeah.
And the stock keeps going up. Growth usually takes a hit, Brad, when the markets are worried about us going to war. The market has been incredibly resilient, and a lot of these growth in AI names that we see, again, I keep mentioning Oracle, but Oracle, Palantir, AVGO, they're seeing growth and they're going up. And just yesterday, the Marvell note, which isn't on our 15, but with that $100 billion TAM for custom chips, you're seeing that the market sees massive opportunity. And of course, the defense sector is going to continue to spend big, and AI will accelerate the innovation in that area.